Alright, new John Woo movie. Well, this would have been a lot funnier like a week ago. Alright, let's correct the record here for a minute. John Woo did not stop making movies. He stopped making movies with lots of gunfights because American producers really didn't know what to do with him after Face Off for some reason, and he spent most of the last decade back and forth between China and Hong Kong, focusing on historical dramas and wuxia fantasy movies. But now he's back in the heavily armed saddle with Manhunt, a pan-Asian action thriller remake of a 1976 Japanese film of the same name, undertaken as a tribute to the late actor Ken Takakura, who starred in the original. Loosely adapted like the original from a novel by Juko Nishimura, the film stars Zhang Hanyu as a Chinese lawyer whose assignment to a powerful and, of course, wickedly corrupt Japanese pharmaceutical company is coming to an end, with his firm having decided to move him to a new client in the United States. Buddy, speaking from behind the wall here, my advice would be to wait a year or two, but what do I know? Unfortunately, he doesn't even get to pack his bags to leave before he wakes up in his hotel, not being able to remember how he got back to his hotel or why there's a dead girl in his bed and his fingerprints on a murder weapon. So now he's on the run in Japan, trying to find out who framed him and why, pursued and or aided at various points by a cross-section of other colorful characters, all wrapped up in what immediately becomes apparent as some kind of sinister conspiracy involving his former employers, including the CEO's creepy son and heir, a gruff older Japanese police detective with an agenda of his own, a younger and icier detective who doesn't play by the rules with a spunky by-the-book young female partner to break in, a mysterious half-Chinese woman stalking the fugitive lawyer for unknown reasons, a community of homeless people being abducted for mysterious purposes, and a pair of sister assassins played by South Korean star Ha Ji-won and the director's own daughter Angela Woo. Everybody chases everybody else around urban and eventually rural Japan. A lot of guns get fired, a lot of cars, motorcycles, and jet skis get crashed, lots of blood gets spilled, lots of motion gets slowed way the hell down. Woo probably gets the last laugh on parodies of his signature White Doves gag amid a twist-filled, flashback-laden conspiracy plot that doesn't really make a tremendous amount of sense, but were you asking it to? It's all very clearly meant to be a throwback to the freewheeling, low-budget creativity of the director's earlier films, and it definitely has the familiar manic energy and sincere commitment to weirdness, but it's not quite the return of the glory days some might have been hoping for. It's certainly not bad, it's a lot of fun, it moves like it's late for work, it's definitely a treat for longtime fans to see how committed Woo remains to his original bag of tricks. Not just the slow motion and the doves everyone's goofed on over the years, but the melodramatic dissolves, awkward still frame, and the lounge bar jazz music deployed at interesting intervals, and the expected gift born of legit B-movie journeyman chops of looking at a setup in terms of, okay, we got this room, these props, and this amount of guns, what's the craziest shit we can pull in here? But in what turns out to be a weird downside, what constitutes low budget has changed a lot since John Woo created his template in late 80s Hong Kong, and pairing these analog old school techniques with slicked up 21st century digital shooting and the general reality of present day guns, cars, and other tools of the trade leads to an occasionally off look and feel. It's an atmosphere where everything's almost a little too clean, the movements is a little too smooth, the locations are too unblemished by all the death and destruction surrounding them, to the point where everything apart from everyone being Chinese, Japanese, or Korean, you might think you were watching an especially well-directed episode of NCIS. Still, there's a big centerpiece blowout involving the siege of a rural farmhouse filled with what are by that point all the good guys by all the bad guys that seriously kills in terms of what the hell are they going to do next, clearly the high point of the movie. Even if it comes in more or less toward the end of Act 2, and the finale, while not as much pure fun on the action front, is completely bonkers, if for no other reason being because the plot suddenly gets yanked off into such an extreme turn to almost pseudo-sci-fi territory that I almost thought Netflix might have started up a whole other movie by accident. So it's not quite the comeback people might have been hoping for, but in a way I'm kind of glad Woo is still going his own way for the most part. You know, here's a guy who, back when it was really only hardcore film geeks paying attention outside of Hong Kong, pretty much single-handedly reinvented what modern action movies were supposed to look like, and then by the time he got to come to Hollywood for big budgets, was clearly getting bored with his own invention and wanted to get on to different things, and then spent a lot of the intervening years actually doing that as a result, even if not everyone internationally was watching. And this one isn't exactly great, but it's a nice distraction, a straight to Netflix fare often goes, and incidentally, Angela Woo, who really is only now getting into acting and hasn't been in much before this, turns out to be a real highlight of the movie. She's got a different look and attitude from the sort of actress that usually gets cast in these sort of lady assassin roles, and it was a kind of a surprise to find out she's actually John Woo's kid. I hope she does more stuff after this. Anyway, I'm gonna give this one 2.5 stars. I mean, it's fun. If you got Netflix already, it's not like it's gonna cost you anything.